Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce a concept of XREFs, and we're not really going to understand it until we start to build our sheet files. So what I did is I started off with just using a regular Autocad drawing. Okay, I opened it up not using the template that we created because it's not technically a plan drawing. And what I did to begin with is I just made sure that my units were architectural, and you'll see that when I open my file I only have layer 0. Now what XREFs are is they're external references, okay, and so the command for attaching them is XREF, and you'll hear them being referred to as XREFs in the profession. And what they are is it's a method for bringing in external AutoCAD drawings into the current file without copying and pasting them, okay? And the reason being is that what we want to do is we want to keep everything as organized and as streamlined as possible. And the more drawings that we have that are disjointed and not connected, the more we're going to have to remember to edit each one of those, okay, when changes are being made. And so the concept of XREFs, what happens is that essentially if something changes in plan, okay, theoretically, if everything is just layered in that plan, then you can make all the changes at once, all the sheet sets will be up to date, and again, we're going to see this as we go forward, okay? This is essentially going to be part 1 of 2 in terms of getting familiar with XREFs and working with paper space. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to pile all this information, okay, when we start to work with our plans more in our plan file. And then we're going to get into our layers and we're just going to turn them on and off as we need to. Okay, so again, it's streamlining the information. So this is a project management aspect of AutoCAD. When we insert XREFs, okay, we're actually inserting technically an image of the file that we're XREFencing in. Okay, and when we change the XREF file, okay, it's going to update all of the drawings in which it's XREFed, and the paper files, anything like that in which it's XREFed. They can be inserted as attachments and overlays, and we'll look at that in a second. And just remember that this is the other thing about layer 0 is that XREFs should be inserted on layer 0, okay, or their own special XREF layer. And again, this kind of comes back to when we start to turn information on and off, it just makes it a lot easier. So this is the second thing besides the original objects of blocks that we should be putting on layer 0, okay? And also keep in mind that when we do start to XREF drawings from one drawing into another, okay, only the objects in model space will be XREFed, okay? People want to XREF the objects in paper space, but only the objects in model space are going to be XREF, so keep that one in mind. So to insert XREFs, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in XREF, hit enter, and what this does is it opens up the dialog that keeps track of all of our XREFs and our references in the project, and you'll see that once we start to work with other ones, okay, they'll start to be added here too as well when we start to work with data links and other types of files too as well. Don't get confused by this, okay, because basically this is our XREF manager. It looks like we already have one in there, but really this is the drawing that's open right now, okay? You'll see this says drawing 1, and up here you'll see that we are in drawing 1, okay? I just opened this up from the AutoCAD template. So there's really nothing in the file, okay, that we have as an XREF. It just kind of gives us reference. I think this is a bit confusing, but just keep in mind that that's always going to be in your drawing, no matter what. It's always going to start off with this one. So to attach an XREF, what we're going to do is I'm going to click on the little button above, okay, and you'll see when I mouse over it, it says attach DWG. Just make sure that it's the icon with the paper. There's a little paper clip in the corner, and it says DWG. Now when I click on that, it's going to ask me to look for my reference file. So yeah, I can look in my Windows Explorer to see where that file is, okay? I'm going to find my file, so I'm going to choose my original plan, and then it's going to give me some additional options with my inserting the XREF, okay? Basically all of this is fine. You want to make sure that you keep your scale at 1 to 1 to 1, okay? That just means it's going to be 100%. You really don't want to mess with the scale, okay, because that's going to skew everything. And then the rotation, you can make sure that stays 0. And then insertion point, this depends on project to project, okay? We're just going to leave it as specify on screen. Just what that means is that if I click on the screen it's going to insert it at that point, okay? But if I deselect that, you'll see that they give me, it gives me X, Y, and Z coordinates, okay, and 0, 0, 0. So whenever anybody really says, you know, the 0, 0, 0 point or the point of origin, they're meaning that it's the, you know, 0 value in the X, Y, and Z axis, okay? And that's typically right here, okay, where you have your coordinates. Now, as I said, we're going to be just specifying it on screen, but when you start to work with bigger firms and you start to work with more disciplines such as structural engineers, mechanical engineers, a lot of times what they do is they specify a starting point in their drawing to be at the 0, 0, 0 point, so that essentially if I have my plan and I insert their drawing as an XREF at the 0, 0 point, it should lay exactly on top of my plan. Okay, so again, it's another way of streamlining the process. Okay, now the reference type, these two, about 90% of the time, you won't see the difference between these two, and a lot of people don't know the difference between attachment and overlay because of that. But the difference is, when you have an attachment, what that means is it's attached to this drawing, okay? So that when I XREF this drawing into another drawing, which sometimes happens, okay, if this is an attachment, it's going to go with, okay? If it's an overlay, it's just going to stay in this drawing, and then if I XREF this drawing into another drawing, it's not going to go with, okay? It's only going to stay in this drawing. So that's the difference between those two. Once I'm done, if I hit OK, okay, and I go back into my model space, it's going to ask me to specify the insertion point, so I'm just going to click. And then you probably won't see it at first, but if I do a zoom extents, Z enter, E enter, that's where it is, and you'll see it. And you'll notice that it's a bit faded, okay, and that's because that's an XREF display that AutoCAD has. If you want to see it full force, if you type in options, and if you go into display and XREF the fade control XREF display, if you slide that slider all the way to the left and hit OK, you'll see that now it comes in at full force. Okay, now if I click on it, you'll see that it's one object. Okay, it's not multiple objects. And what I can do is I can actually copy XREFs. Okay, I can rotate them. I can mirror them. So I can work with them like any other object. I can actually use these in order to help set up elevations. Okay, and I'm always going to have the most current and up-to-date XREF and information for my elevation, because again, these are just images of the plan that I'm XREFing into this drawing. Okay, so if I change the plan, it's going to update and it's going to keep all of the changes to the plan current in the view here.